How did you first get into Weezer, and what were some of your earliest memories of the band?
So my first Weezer memories are of Blue Album and Green Album. We kind of skipped Pinkerton.
I found out about them through a YouTube video that I watched where they used, I think it was like Buddy Holly or something. They played Buddy Holly, and I thought it sounded cool. So I looked it up, and that's how I found out about them.
I remember hearing the song The Good Life. It was really good. And I remember just like listening to that song on repeat during like the summer, like 4 years ago, I'd say. And just like loving it, and then I just eventually listened to all their albums.
The 90s were a wild time for music. If bands weren't a part of the contemporary craze that was the alternative rock and grunge movement, they were contributing to other genres that were gaining massive exposure, such as hip-hop, indie music, ska punk, the list goes on. However, while many musical groups from that time have come and gone over the years, one band in particular has not only managed to stand the test of time, relatively speaking, but have grown quite the following thanks to their unique personality, this being none other than Weezer.
Well, my father would play a lot of the Blue Album. He was a big fan of the Sweater Song, which is, I love that song a lot.
The first time I was like really into Weezer, I was about 12 or 13, and one of my friends showed me I think they showed me the Say It Ain't So video. I really liked it, so I checked out the Blue Album, Pinkerton, and I really liked them, so I kept listening from there.
Well, my family, they like my brothers and stuff, they just always kind of like showed me music on the computer when I was a little kid. And I remember Weezer like being very prominent in that, the music they showed me. And then I did like theater, so all my friends were way older than me and like way cooler than me. So I wanted to be like them, and they were all into music and stuff. So I wanted to get in like a band, and the only band I knew that was cool was like really Weezer. So I just listened to Blue Album like all of 7th grade.
I got into Weezer summer of 2010. I'd always been kind of aware of them because when I was growing up and I was at high school, they had really big hits in the UK with Beverly Hills. That was a top 10 hit in the UK, and I think Pork and Beans reached the top 40. I mean, obviously, like, Buddy Holly had been really successful in the 90s, but I was born the year the Blue Album came out, so I wasn't exactly aware of that.
Originally formed in the year 1992, Weezer was created by vocalist Rivers Cuomo, drummer Patrick Wilson, guitarist Jason Cropper, and bassist Matt Sharp. Although first starting out as an opening act, the band would soon go on to record their debut self-titled album to both critical and commercial success. And ever since then, the band has continued their thrives in the music industry with 13 studio albums, an ever-changing musical identity, and a consistent touring schedule. But that's not the topic of this documentary. Instead, this will primarily focus on the true backbone of every band ever, their fan base. How were you introduced to Weezer's fan base, and what were your initial reactions towards it?
The fan base I mainly know through the subreddit. And the initial reactions are that it's kind of strange.
Mostly just like looking at like reviews of their albums, comments on YouTube, Reddit. My first thought was very divided. It's like super divided fan base, but like fun at the same time. Like a lot of, they don't take themselves too seriously, basically.
I found a r/Weezer post on r all or something. I think I found I don't know if you remember it, but it's that one where it was that one Halloween poster where a bunch of people dressed up like the Blue Album, which was really cool, and I saw it on all, and I figured that, like, since I liked Weezer, I should go on there.
In terms of other people in my life who knew Weezer, like, I have been surrounded by people who are generally music nerds when it comes to, like, entertainment and stuff, so, you pick them up. And then I realized that a couple of my friends were really into them, or at least really into Blue and Pinkerton, and then you start to develop your own obsession with them, and I thought, there's gotta be a place where there are more than 100 people in one place talking about Weezer.
The fan base originally began in 1994 with the creation of the Weezer fan club by sisters Michael and Carly Allen. And while small in size, what made the fan club stand out was its personality. Because of the club being ran by actual fans themselves, it gave it a much more personal feeling that was hard to find with other fandoms at the time. Many people associate Weezer's fan base with having a much more personal and unique feeling towards it compared to other fan bases. Would you say this is true, and if so, why?
Yeah, probably, because they're just such like well, they obviously have they're a band that's been around a long time, so obviously there's a lot of people that have like a nostalgic connection to them.
Well, especially with the making of Pinkerton, that's a very like personal album for Rivers, and it shows all of his like hard times in life, and I feel lots of the fan bases, lots of the people in the fan base can connect with that album, and so do I as myself. So I feel that's probably one of the reasons.
A lot of Weezer fans are really ride or die for the band, and it's actually like. No matter what you say, there's always going to be someone out there who loves whatever you're criticizing. And I feel like a lot of them are insanely dedicated, and I feel like, I don't know, the Weezer fans are just a lot bigger fans of their band than most other band subreddits are.
No. It's not.
You wouldn't say so?
I wouldn't, just because I think that like every band fan base or like fan base of an artist, they all feel connected to them somewhat, I guess, and I'm not too sure what would be different about this.
Although the original fan club has gone in and out of retirement throughout the years, fans have been able to find new ways to show their love for Weezer through websites such as Facebook and Reddit. In fact, the internet has opened up many opportunities for the fans to communicate, share their own or other people's work, or to even get in touch with the band themselves. To use an example, during the production of their fourth album Maladroit, Rivers Cuomo experimented with the idea of using fans on message boards as producers by sharing with them demos from their recording sessions. And although this relationship soured as it went on, the band was still very grateful for their input. However, with this migration onto the internet, there was a very noticeable shift with how the band presented itself as well. Over the past decade or so, Weezer as a band has greatly changed personalities, going from having a somewhat emotional persona to now being more self-aware and goofy. Do you believe this was caused by the fan base itself, or by decisions made by the band themselves?
It probably has to do with both. I don't think the fans would be the way they were if they didn't release things like I Can't Stop Partying. I think just because of that and how personal, Rivers takes things. So that's just probably how it happened. He just got, upset about people hating him, so he turned to humor to cope with it.
I know the guys from Weezer bring this up a lot, but they can't keep making Blue and Pinkerton albums because the music, where everyone's interested in music now, it's changed so much since 1990s and everything like that. So I feel that the band decided to come up with more modern music so that they can get a bigger audience, and that's what led them to do this. But I'm not myself. I would definitely prefer more Blue and Pinkerton albums because that was some phenomenal work.
When it comes to bands that have been around for as long as Weezer has, they'll generally evolve with their music to both prevent creative burnout and to experiment with different sounds and genres. And although Weezer is no exception to this, they've shown to have evolved in more ways than just musically.
So they had like a less serious tone, but I feel like Rivers was super into, making something that people really loved. And then the industry kind of just moved on, and they said, all right, we did the pop rock thing for a while, and that was fun, and now we're going to move on to, the next kind of new thing.
I think both, because I know that after Pinkerton, Rivers was destroyed, because I think after that, he didn't want to write any more stuff similar to that, so that was Green Album, and they're trying to move away from that, I guess. So I think that with... I guess the band just made a decision. They didn't really want to do that anymore. And the fan base, I wasn't a fan then, so I don't know how they were. I'm just going to assume they've stayed the same. So they're probably pretty goofy also. They probably thought, okay, well, we don't like being serious anymore, and they're all being goofy, so let's be goofy together.
The band has developed quite an interesting personality, one that has rarely been seen by anyone else of their status before. As of late, Weezer has become much more self-aware to both their own identity and their general demographic. But what's interesting is that in many regards, the fanbase itself can be attributed to this tonal change. While this personality change has kind of been one of Weezer's more defining traits nowadays, would you say you're happy with how they present themselves, or do you wish they would go back to their original personality?
I love their new persona. I think if they went back to the original, it would be like just weird and cringy. Just a bunch of 50-year-old men like moaning about how no girls like them. So I think it was a switch for the better.
I don't mind it. I saw someone say that whenever they performed Feels Like Summer and Rivers was in like the sun costume or something, he hated that. I don't really care. I do think that it makes people think that they're not like a serious band. And I guess they've kind of become not a serious band.
As mentioned before, with the internet creating many different opportunities for both the band and their fans, nowadays, things have gotten a little interesting. With a simple name search or visit onto their social media pages, you will be flooded with endless amounts of internet memes and inside jokes all revolving around the band itself. Never before has a band of Weezer's status ever shown this much appreciation to this side of their fanbase, and it makes one curious as to why they've diversified themselves in this regard.
It's less of the personality, more the music. I like the way they act. I think, they're funny, they do their stuff. They do what they do. But yeah, it's more, I don't have a problem with what they do. I think it's a good change. You gotta change it up. When you've been around for so long, you have to change it up.
I like that they're focused on making music that the band, wants to make, and not something they expect is going to be big just because they want to be, playing stadiums.
I think they've entered a second fun phase. The first fun phase was when they produced Red, Raditude, and Hurley, and did a song for the US national soccer team, and had a song on the Cars 2 soundtrack. I like to call it Troll Weezer. And this is Rivers and Weezer's second troll phase, where they do a cover of Africa, then they do a whole album of covers, and then they completely change the album that they promised 3 years ago.
Many fans believe this character change began with the music video for their 2008 hit Pork and Beans. While the song itself is your typical Weezer fare, the video achieved cultural status because of its incorporation of popular online personalities and memes at the time. And although a little dated by today's standards, this marked a rather significant moment in the band's history, as it showed their appreciation for this new form of media. Soon after, the band would go on to release albums such as Raditude and Hurley, both of which having a much more jovial and tongue-in-cheek writing style, only to further establish their new personalities. But one recent event has gone on to show just how much the band loves to play on not only their character, but on the fandom as well.
So, as many people know, Weezer covered Africa by Toto last year. But what they may not know is that it was done by a fan's request. What do you personally think this says about Weezer as a band and their overall relationship with their fans?
Well, I think that they listen to what their fans are saying and what they would like to hear out of the band, because I know for like very diehard fans, they have like meetups with the Weezer fan club and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they treat like diehard fans, and they treat their fans with respect that they want to see given both ways.
Yeah, this whole campaign started by this one girl, and they I guess we could do that. It'd be fun. Weezer does have this kind of weird hands-on approach where they're tongue-in-cheek about, the things that fans want and what they're willing to give. It is definitely the weirdest relationship that I've seen a band have with their fan base.
Back in May of 2018, Weezer surprised the world with a cover of Africa by the band Toto. And while that doesn't sound that special, considering how musicians cover songs all the time, what made this so special were the means of how it was created. In late 2017, a fan named Mary Klim began a rigorous Twitter campaign requesting Weezer to cover Africa. Although not much came out of it at first, nearly 5 months later, the band supplied to the hot demand and released their take on this 80s classic.
Obviously, bands will just cover things because, but I don't think they've ever covered things because they've been incessantly kind of tweeted by a teenage girl to release it as a single, and then to have so much success. All that would have amounted to, with most other bands, I feel like all it would have amounted to was maybe if this other band, they get incessantly tweeted, cover a Paranoid Android by Radiohead. Do it. Just do it as a joke. Just do it. It'd be dead fun. And I feel like all it would amount to was that band playing it live once or twice. Whereas Weezer are like, let's run with this. Let's turn it into our biggest single in years.
The cover would soon go on to be one of Weezer's biggest commercial successes throughout their entire career, reaching number 51 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Billboard Alternative Songs. Suffice to say, the band had quite an unexpected hit. And to make matters even better, it was something that all spectrums of the fan base enjoyed. Because admittedly, Weezer has never been the best at satisfying all their fans at the same time, which, as a result of all the creative liberties they've taken as a band, it has led to quite a lot of hostility due to some fans feeling disrespected solely because of their musical taste.
Do you believe the band respects all the different groups in their fan base equally, such as the longtime fans, the old school fans, and the newer fans? Or do you believe there is a form of favoritism towards one specific demographic over another?
I don't know if it's a favoritism, but I think they don't really try to appeal to any specific group of the fans. I think they more try to appeal to themselves and do what they like. I don't want to say they don't care what the fans think, but they're more like, they do what they want to do and just like see who likes it more.
Personally, I kind of just feel like they're trying to go for that mass appeal, because Weezer is one of those bands where, you know, like, as soon as you listen to the song, you just get really caught up in it. And some of those songs, by the time the last chorus plays, you're singing along too, even if you didn't know it before.
I want to say that, you know, they love the ride or die kind of people, the people that they know that they can count on the support of forever. But then I went to my first Weezer show like last year, and it was right after Pacific Daydream came out, and the set list still is 8 of the 10 songs from Blue Album, at least 2 Pinkerton songs, and then it was just a weird assembly of other songs. It was like Beverly Hills and Porky Beans, you know, the biggest hits. So I don't know. Part of me says, you know, they like the people that are just there to listen to the music they want to make, and part of me thinks that they, you know, at least Rivers himself really likes the fact that people still like Blue and Pinkerton, even though it upsets him that his current stuff isn't as big as that got.
As Weezer's popularity has grown over the years, many fans have begun creating their own labels and groups in order to distinguish themselves. Now, many fandoms before have done this as well, but because of Weezer's massive evolution throughout their career, it has made this divide much more impactful. And this is especially true with the more old school fans who prefer their sound on albums such as Blue and Pinkerton. While there is nothing wrong with enjoying a band's earlier work, this side of the fan base has grown in infamy due to their love-hate relationship with Rivers.
Some people like to spin the fact that Weezer has changed their sound over the years as them showing resentment towards old school fans. Do you believe this is true or not, and why?
Well, I do not believe it's true, because Rivers, like I said earlier, he really does like to experiment and try new stuff and try to pull in new fans and like keep the band going. So I feel that they just want to try new things and go with what they're feeling and just do their own thing.
I think, like the exception of some of the tracks on Ratitude, they just kind of make the songs to make art and like do whatever they're interested in. And I just think it happens to piss off the old fans, but they get pissed off of every single album they release. So they're all like nerds too. So what do they have to like spite anyone? They're not like petty people. They're very like, at least from what they seem to be pretty honest, you know.
Based on the person like Rivers is, it doesn't feel like he'd want to continue doing the same thing for like this long. I feel like it's only natural that he just kind of like branched out a lot. Like every single Weezer album has its own like identity, even the ones that sound kind of similar.
A little bit, I'd say, especially with songs like "Can't Knock the Hustle." He talks about like you can't like be mad. Rivers is like you can't be mad at me for doing what I do. So there's a little bit of that, I'd say, but I don't think it's out of like spite. You know, it's more like it's not out of spite. It's just like they're doing what they want to do.
Criticism has always been an unfortunate guarantee for artists of any media. However, because of Weezer's constant departure from their original sound, they've been the subject of ridicule by many musical websites and online reviewers for years. And while some of it may be deserved, it's given the band a mindset of people not letting the past die, which has resulted in a bitterness developing between these diehard old school fans and the band themselves. So much so that it has occasionally affected both Rivers' songwriting abilities and outlook on the fanbase as a whole. But what a lot of these people don't understand is that it's a necessity for bands like Weezer to evolve over time. Because if they were to remain exactly how they were back in the 90s, not only would their music get incredibly stale, but they'd be oppressing themselves as musicians for not attempting to reimagine their sound. Of course, this has resulted in them having many missteps throughout their career, but it's still better than hearing them constantly repeat what worked for them in the past. So while not all of their fans may enjoy what they're doing nowadays, it shows that Weezer still has integrity and a creative strive to test themselves as a band.
Where do you see the fan base in the future as well as the band itself? Do you believe they'll both maintain their current personalities or have another tonal shift?
I think Weezer is going to go into more of a poppy style like they already have started to be doing with Pacific Daydream and the Black Album. I think they'll be heading more in that direction. And I think the fan base, I think, will be growing a lot more because that's what most people like to hear now. It's not my favorite, but I guess you'll say I'm ride or die for Weezer.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's like they're getting up there in age. They're in their 40s, 50s, I think, actually. So it's like, how much longer can you really do this, you know? Like, how many more albums can you release? How, like, it is amazing how they've maintained, like, relevancy. Like, they're not obviously as popular as they used to be, but they're still, like, they're not struggling by any means. So I definitely think they'll stay relevant. And definitely, like, they'll always have their fans. I think just as they keep going along, though, definitely keep changing. They've always been changing.
I think it'll stay relatively the same, but it's changing right now. A lot of people are even people who don't like Black are kind of supporting that it's like different, and I think they kind of came to the realization that they're not going to make Pinkerton over and over again.
Weezer has never been one for predictability, which in and of itself is a double-sided blade. On one hand, it prevents their sound or presence from ever getting stale, while on the other, causing their identity to be a bit inconsistent from time to time. However, it does make being a fan interesting to say the least, and whether or not you agree with their creative decisions, their antics are still what people come back for. But none of this would be possible without their fans. Although they may not see eye to eye on everything, there is still a codependence between themselves and the band, which inherently strengthens the bond between them even more. Of course, most groups or personalities with a following will love their fans regardless, but over the years, Weezer has proven to always go the extra mile with this connection, and it really goes to show the type of people they are. And through all of the ups and downs, they still continue to inspire, entertain, and most importantly, care about the people who listen to their music.
I feel like right now, they've kind of like found their identity, at least like for the next like 10 years or so maybe. And I feel like with the fact that they're already going forward with new albums means that we'll probably have like a lot of content and music from this era of the band.
I'm not completely sure. I think the fan base will probably stay relatively the same. Not sure what the band will end up doing with their personality. If I think it's been working recently, so they'll probably stick with it unless they really hit rock bottom and aren't selling anything.
These are a band who are always going to move with any tide that comes in, whether that's a tide of fans who... It's basically whatever Rivers hears the most and hears the loudest. He'll either listen to himself the most and go in that direction. He'll hear the purists the most and he'll head in their direction. He'll hear the pop charts and he'll move in their direction. He's always letting things influence him from the outside. And he's always very welcoming of exterior influences, and he's very malleable. He's a very, very malleable songwriter, and wherever the wind takes him, that's where he'll go.
The future is never certain, but when it comes to Weezer and their fans, it can be assured they'll still find new ways to surprise one another, for better and for worse. All we can do is wait and see what both of these groups have in store and where it will take them.
People are kind of getting that if they want to listen to Blue Album or Pinkerton Weezer, they can listen to Blue Album or Pinkerton, or everything will be right in the end, or White, and get that kind of Weezer sound that is traditional, and they might be willing to just shut up and let Weezer do what they want. But I think as long as Weezer does what they want to do and not what they expect is going to make people, happy or support them more, I think they're just going to make good music. And hopefully the fan base will, be open to that.